Hi there, my name is Malcolm Daleus, and I lie. And so do many of you, I'm sure. Lying is something that comes easy to all of us, yet we hate when we're lied to. It's something so many of us do, yet it's such a taboo thing to even think about. I was always taught, lying is wrong, never lie, but 17 years later, I haven't met a single person who hasn't lied before. And I've been lied to too. My parents told me Santa Claus was real, and I believed it for way too long. Christmas Eve comes, and I'll hear a noise at 3 a.m., and I'll still think, maybe that's him. When I was in elementary school, I got away with my first lie that was beyond saying it wasn't me. I had done one of my projects the night before it was due, and there was a lot of it I ended up not finishing. So because I was too much of a perfectionist to get a low grade, I created a fake project and ripped a bunch of tiny holes in the first one, and told my teacher that my guinea pig bit through the first one and I didn't have enough time to make a second one. I got a 94. Now that was just a simple story about my previous academic dishonesty. Let me give you a skill. I learned how to spot a liar based on certain words and behaviors. A lot of lying comes hand in hand with one's own moral standards and consciousness. And depending on how severe it is, people feel bad when they lie. So you have to look for signs of, I'm doing something wrong and I know it. If you can spot a guilty person, you can spot 2/3 of people that are lying to you, assuming that they are decent people and have a conscience. In the case of someone who doesn't feel bad about lying, it's still decently simple. That's where you pay attention to what's actually being said. When someone lies, they have to use certain truthful information and hide certain information to build a believable story from the ground up. And admittedly, that is very hard. So, there's bound to be a bunch of holes, discrepancies, and extra information. To detect a lie, just take each detail and judge how real it is, judge how relevant it is, and how it connects with the rest of the details. If anything doesn't fit, there's a good chance there's a lie. It becomes easier to detect the more you do it, and certain patterns become much more obvious. Again, people feel bad when they lie, so it's hard to hide those signs. Let's set some things up about lying in general. 1. It's seen as morally wrong. 2. We feel bad doing it. 3. We don't like being lied to. Yet almost everyone does it. So if we feel bad, why do we lie? How can something that is agreed upon by most as bad be something we do and continue to do at some point? We'll even defend ourselves. Is lying actually bad? It's not that simple, actually. For example, lying to protect someone. Let's say your family adopts a dog from the shelter. Your mom doesn't like this idea, but she doesn't have a good argument for getting rid of him, so you guys keep him. Now, one day that dog breaks a vase. Would it be morally wrong to lie and say that you broke the vase so that your mom didn't try to put the dog back in the shelter? Most people would say no. I've read many stories where kids have lied to protect pets or family members or friends, and they were usually praised, which was something that really shocked me. It was shocking to hear lying being praised. They lied, but it was good. But if you aren't convinced or feel like this is just an isolated example, let's think about how hypocritical this whole thing is. We have professions where lying is either normal or encouraged. Think about lawyers. Lawyers tend to not outright lie because that would make a pretty bad lawyer. Instead, they will try their best to make any bad parts of the truth be hidden by the good truth. They essentially tell the truth, but tell the truth in such a way that there's nothing bad about what they're saying. And we have to think, is that lying? Is it lying to make something seem better than it probably is? Obviously not. They're just doing their jobs. We wouldn't let that happen if there was not something okay with it. Think journalism. Some journalists are encouraged to make up facts about stories or change the scope to generate more hits. They don't flood the media with stories that are polar opposites from the truth, but they change certain things so that people click. We know that things we see online or in the media aren't true, but we tend to shift focus off the media outlets and onto the people that believe them. We shame people for believing that something they see online is true, when that should just be a normal thing. Media falsifying certain information is a truth, and we as the consumers have to work around that. But why don't we change that at all? Finally, we have the most common lie of all, a white lie, the most minor and harmless form of a lie, and also the most acceptable. White lies are very simple. They're used to keep the flow of a conversation, they're used to boast about things that no one can really disprove, they're used to make a quick excuse to get out of something. They're very applicable. The power in the white lie is behind their simplicity, though. Because they are very short and minor, there's not very many holes to look at and poke at. For instance, lying to your teacher and telling them that you didn't complete the homework because you were at a funeral, when in reality, you were at home watching TV. You're not trying to harm the teacher or take advantage of her. You just want to get out of trouble. It's more convenient to lie, so you do. Same thing with telling a few impressive stories about camp that might not fully be true. A few details are a little amplified and you leave out a couple of details. But you're not meaning to harm anyone. You're not trying to take advantage of anybody. You just want to seem better than you actually are. It's very simple. That's what the basis of a white lie is. It's something that nobody can really disprove, and it's something that's relatively simple and harmless. So lying isn't always bad. It can even be good. How do we define it? We simply break it up. Lying to make someone believe something so that you can benefit is bad. Simple enough. Lying to protect someone or to cause benefit for somebody else is generally okay and sometimes good. White lies are neither bad nor good, but you shouldn't make a habit out of using them. White lies can become more severe as the boundary between what a white lie is and a real lie becomes blurred. Minor details can become major details, and you can find yourself in a much heavier situation than you originally thought. And white lies aren't as harmless as you might think. If you aren't convinced by the moral reasons not to lie, that's okay. But as it stands, the truth tends to be easier to deal with. You don't have to cover for anything, there's no details to keep track of. It's much easier to keep contained. But that's it. It's not good to think of lying as an eternal evil, because it isn't. It's in the same grain as violence, where it's necessary in some cases. And it's hypocritical to condemn it publicly, then go tell your friend that your dog caught the flu to avoid hanging out with them. No one wants to be seen as a liar, and no one wants to be lied to. But we're all liars pointing fingers at each other and wondering why everyone else is doing it. If we are all going to lie, we have to look at it differently and see where it stands morally. Otherwise, we should just stop doing it together. Thank you.